Hello again. Okay, so I asked you guys on Instagram what eyeshadow looks you wanted to see, and a lot of you were like, eyeshadow for hooded eyes, / we need halo eyes in our life. So that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna show you how to do halo eye for hooded eyes. Yes, I'm aware that I don't have hooded eyes. I have slightly hooded lids, but I can still share my knowledge with you. So I'm gonna do it. It's like I have brush holders everywhere. Why don't I just put them back in the holder? Okay, first up, I'm just gonna prime my eyes with my NARS eye primer in light. Okay, so the first thing that you wanna consider is how much room do you have to work with here? I've said it a million times. We have to be realistic about our features, okay? So no matter what you do, you can do little tricks here and there, but if you have super tiny, super hooded, low brow, okay? You're not gonna be able to make your eyes look like mine. It's just not going to happen. But I'm gonna try to tell you how you can do these techniques for your eye shape. Hopefully this helps. If you have hooded eyes, then usually your lids are pretty much non-existent when your eyes are open. Maybe when you blink or you look down or you close your eyes completely, you can see your lid, right? You might also have a very low brow, which just doesn't give you as much room to work with. So we're gonna start off with our darker colors. I'm gonna be using the Vanity Makeup palette. This is the Signature palette. Has some really beautiful foiled shades and also some really nice neutrals. So I'm gonna start off with this color right here with just like a little, just a little guy, a little blending brush. This is the Rougher 13 brush. Okay, so I'm tapping off my brush. Oh, I should zoom you in more. Why do I always have to make that face every time I zoom you in? Something to keep in mind is if you have hooded eyes, if you don't have a lot of real estate up in this area, then focus your eyeshadow more out to the side, okay? So what I'm gonna do is start off out here. So I'm gonna pretend that I don't have all of this room. And I'm gonna blend out. So I'm placing it there, and then I'm just gonna slowly kind of like, just buffing. We're just buffing. It helps to just kind of like look forward into a mirror. You don't always want to be like looking down into a mirror. You want to be able to see like, what's it gonna look like when I'm just like normal, you know? Now I'm gonna slowly bring that down a little bit, connecting it with my lower lash line. So we're basically just doing this whole section here. This is gonna work for tiny eyes too, okay? Okay, now for the inner part, you need a smaller brush. I'm gonna use just like a little pencil brush. This one's from Dominique Cosmetics. There's a bunch of them, I'll link some down below. I'm gonna pick up that same color and I'm going to focus that, there's a hair on it, right in the very inner part of my lid. Now, if your eyes are super close set, mine are like relatively close set, you don't wanna take that like out too much. You wanna keep it on like the inner part of your lid. If you have wide set eyes, then like, go at it, bro. You can bring it like in here, especially if you have hooded eyes. It might make it a little bit more easy to see. And then I'm gonna slowly kind of just like blend it up. Basically, I just wanna see like, okay, when my eyes are open, what do you see? Like what plane on my eye can you see? If you're putting this color down and when your eyes are open, you don't see it at all, you gotta put it somewhere where you're gonna see it, right? Otherwise, you're really not gonna get that effect. That means that you can bring it onto the inner corner. Once again, if you have very close set eyes, make sure you're keeping it close to your inner corner. If you have wide set eyes, you really have more room to work with. So now for the lower, I'm gonna start going onto the lower lash line. I'm gonna bring this down here. All right, I'm gonna use that same brush and on my lower lash line, I'm just gonna start kind of building that up for my lower lash line, connecting it up to that kind of like winged shape that we created. So the wing is really just so that we are able to like see that color. So if you're just doing like something super duper round, you're not necessarily going to see that color. So just, it's kind of like an excuse to be able to like bring it out this way. All right, now with a typical halo eye, you would connect it up here. But if you have hooded eyes that are like super tiny and once again you have like no room, you might not have the room in that area to actually be able to connect it, you know, and also like have a pop and lid shade. So rather than connect it, all I'm gonna do is just kind of like diffuse it toward the middle. Same with this part, just blending it so that it's not like, you know, harsh or super disconnected. Okay, now this looks, I mean, I like the way this looks, but for a halo eye, typically you kind of like make it a little bit more dark, you know, and smoky. So depending on like, I don't know, how dark you want to make it, because sometimes if you make it too dark, it can make your eyes look really small. So if you have super small eyes, maybe just try to stay in like these mid-tone ranges. So I'm gonna actually grab this black shadow from the palette, the signature palette, and I'm gonna start building up just the contrast. So I'm using that pencil brush, and I'm actually gonna start in the inner part. So right in my inner corner, and then just kind of like buffing, blending it into that initial transition shade. The outer part, starting with the lower lash line and then just kind of like bringing it up. So I'm just going to kind of draw it in and then I'll go in and blend. Once again, focusing it on the on the corner, the outer part of our eye. Don't have to stay within the lid. Going back in with that blending brush by refer and blending around those edges. Okay, now obviously you can use pretty much any lid color or color in the center as you want, but keep in mind if your eyes are small and hooded and you're trying to make them look larger, that you don't want to use something that's going to be super dark. You can, but it is going to make your eyes look a little bit smaller. One of the ways that you can combat this is by using a slightly lighter color in your waterline. So I am actually going to use, I'm trying to decide between these two colors right now. I think I'm going to use this Periwinkle. This is the best color in the entire world, Prance by ColourPop. You could keep this right in the center or blend it into like either corner. It's totally up to you. Obviously putting it like all over your waterline is going to make your eyes look bigger, depending on how light the color is that you're using. And if you have a color that you really want to use and you want it to stand out and you want it to be like maybe a little bit lighter than like what it is, the color that I'm going to be using is from the Huda Beauty Wild Jaguar palette. It's going to be this middle shade right here, which actually has like a pretty dark base. So to lighten that up a little bit so that it's not like closing my eyes, I'm going to use the Bleach Longwear Pomade by KVD Beauty. So it's not white. There is a white one. This one's almost white. It's like an off-white color. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this actually on my finger and place it right in the center of my lid and kind of just like blend that so that I have like a nice light base right in the center that's going to create kind of like a pop of color. You do want to blend this quickly. I don't know why I put this down and didn't blend it because it does set. You could also just use like a white eyeshadow base. Elf has a good one. Just using a little brush for my lower lash line. Placing that right in the center. Just gonna pat that out. Okay, so for, really got patchy, huh? For my lid, I'm gonna use that color that I just showed you. Now, typically with a smoky eye, like I said, you would connect these dark colors so that you're like really rounding it out, and then you would place the halo like right in the center. For this, I'm gonna do kind of the opposite. You can tell that I'm kind of keeping these like further away. The dark colors are, I'm just doing less of it, to be honest, so that I can create a halo eye without like closing my eyes off. And also I want you to be able to see the shimmer. So I'm picking up that eyeshadow. Actually, should I use a brush or my finger? I'm gonna use my finger. And I'm gonna place this starting on the lid, blending, like tapping into those colors. And then as I get up here, I'm just going to blend it up. Now, when you have your eyes open, you don't see your lid at all. What you can do is literally like bring all of this stuff up. So take this dark color to the end of the tail of your brow. Take this dark color to the end of the inner part of your brow. take the lid color all over your lid and then just kind of like tap and blend it up to the center of the brow. Like you are not limited to just your lid. Keep that in mind, especially if you have hooded eyes. Okay, and then I'm using that same color in the center of the lower lash line. So something that I talk about a lot, especially for hooded eyes, is keeping in mind like where your eyes crease. So for instance, like I have slightly hooded lids, which means that like when my eyes are open like this, my lid up here kind of like creases over my actual eyelid, right? So something that I like to do so that I don't have to deal with transfer, because I'm gonna get it anyway, is rather than keeping everything or my lid color like just on the lid when it's like flat like this, I just take it slightly above that because then I don't have to worry about transfer, and then you can actually see it when my eyes are open. I just decided that I wanted it to be more intense. So I'm building up that black shadow a little bit more. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is like especially if you have hooded eyes, I would recommend you don't do a winged liner or line. If you do a wing, keep it out here and don't line your whole eyelid because you're just going to be covering up even more of the eyeshadow. All right, guys, so this is the finished look. I'm obsessed with it. I'm super into these colors right now, I don't know why. Hopefully this helped in some way. I understand it's very difficult when we have limitations based on our like actual anatomy. You can't really do much by your eye shape, huh? Especially if you don't have a lot of real estate. So try to keep this in mind, especially if you have hooded eyes. If you don't have like a ton of lid space, if you don't have like a lot of room to work with, always blowing stuff out this way, working with your waterline, using your lower lash line more or your inner corner for a pop of color. And obviously like depending on your like how much room you have or whatever, if you just happen to have like hooded lids, work in this space, like feel free, you know? This was a little bit more for people who have like a lower brow and just don't have as much room. And I mean, you can connect this halo as much as you want, but just keep in mind that like connecting it might just minimize the like dope lid color or like center color that you're trying to incorporate. Let me know what you want to see next. Blah, blah, blah. All right, guys. Bye.